everybody, I mean, sees colour a bit differently. Everybody does, everybody.
California gave him light. Bradford gave him grit. For 7 decades, David Hockney challenged the way we see.
At $80 million, ladies and gentlemen, the Hockney is sold.
Hockney's iconic California pool paintings brought him huge commercial success and an escape from drab and dreary Britain. In 1967, A Bigger Splash built a world in acid blues. It would become Hockney's most famous work, capturing both movement and stillness in one frame.
You get energy painting. I mean, when I paint, I feel I'm 30. I do, actually. It's only when I stop I feel my age.
Born in Bradford in 1937, one of 5 children. At 18, the artist sold his first painting, a portrait of his dad, for just £10. In the swinging 60s, studying at London's Royal College of Art, he emerged as part of a new generation that would reignite British art's love of landscape and the human form.
David Hockney.
That restless energy would define him. While some contemporaries stayed faithful to oil and canvas, Hockney embraced the new, Polaroid collages, fax machines, and later the iPhone and iPad. For Hockney, tech wasn't the enemy of art, it was simply another way of seeing. In 2012, the Royal Academy of Arts held a blockbuster exhibition of his vast Yorkshire landscapes. Openly gay when it was still criminalised in Britain, Hockney painted love and desire without apology, never pandering to the critics or worrying about what his sitters thought.
In whatever they think of it, I don't particularly care. It's what I think of it that counts.
What matters, he always insisted, was that art be seen.
I have the vanity of artists, meaning I like it to be seen. I don't think I'm that vain myself. In fact, I'm too deaf to be very social.
In his 80s, Hockney's Crocs upstaged the king.
The yellow galoshes.
Throughout his life, he remained curious, often smoking, never afraid of what came next.
If you listen to the medical profession all the time, everything is based on fear of death. Well, the opposite of that's called love of life, isn't it? Better force, much better force. Yeah. No, I think... Yes, I do. I think it actually is rather good for me.
With his roots in theatre sets, Hockney loved experimenting with depth. Distinctly dapper, his trademark spectacles and suits, almost a work of art in their own right. In 2025, Bradford's most famous son painted the sky, California dreaming on a winter's night. But Hockney's legacy isn't just the pools or the iPad masterpieces. It's a way of looking, harder, longer, more joyfully, at a world that often feels grey. Hockney lived a life full of colour.
Well, joining me now is Alex Farquharson, who is director of the Tate Britain Gallery, and you have curated Hockney exhibitions and you're planning another one. How do you begin to approach why he is so brilliant?
Well, for one, the constant visual inventiveness, the way he would go his own way. I can't think of any artist after Picasso who reinvented his practice so much, from intense realism to works bordering on abstraction, from, of course, painting, but moving in and out of painting to photography and new technologies. His love-hate relationship to photography. Painting always came first in the end. And I think it was the availability of his work, the beautiful look of the work, the celebration of color, how life and the world looks, the way that friendship and relationships, those closest to him, were a principal subject to of his work. As he put it, the way his work showed his love of life.
And you think he did love life? That wasn't just a refrain?
Well, he signed his letters, Love
Yeah.
Life, famously, David Hockney. I think he really did. And much of loving life was also about loving art. And his art is really about the relationship between the one and the other. He loved nothing more than to be able to make his work right to the very end, when he was very infirm.
Now, you've picked out 3 images we wanted to show tonight, which are from different scenes. And this, of course, is swimming pools in California.
So a bigger splash, one of the great works in Tate's collection, I should say, and perhaps David's single most iconic work. I mean, it's extraordinary. On the one hand, it's a very everyday scene in Los Angeles of a suburban house, a pool, and that endless LA sunshine. But the subject matter is missing. The subject matter is a person, one would assume from his work of the period, a man, perhaps a naked man who's dived into that pool. And the subject matter is actually not the man, but the splash he's created. And he spent longer painting that splash than the rest of the painting. And that, in a way, introduces a theme that goes through his work, which is how the world looks, particularly something like moving water, it's how to represent it is an endlessly elusive question. It's a problem he never solved, in a way he never wanted to solve, because there's no single solution.
OK, next, we have a couple.
Mr. and Mrs. Clark and Percy. So Celia Birtwell and Ozzie Clark, great friends of his, both celebrated fashion designers, particularly of this period. Percy, of course, is a cat. The title is ironic. It sounds like it's a portrait of a couple from a Georgian painting, the formality of Mr. and Mrs. Of course, these are friends. And it's such an amazing image of its time, from about 1970, Ozzie's naked feet in a shag pile carpet, the way the shag pile carpet is lovingly painted thread by thread, the amazing light coming through the window, the irony of an early work by David on the left hanging on the wall when he was playing with a childlike style of representing the world. He'd since sort of moved into this quite intense naturalism you see here.
And finally.
So this, in a way, belongs to the same series, but it's 5 years later, and here he's painting his parents. His parents from Yorkshire. He grew up in Bradford. I gather his father, Stanley, was not a very patient sitter. So David gave him a book on art to distract him. In the mirror in the background, you see an image of Piero della Francesca's baptism, a great work from the National Gallery, a beloved work of David's. You can see down below a book on the French painter, 17th century painter Chardin. So this is also about his love, and he's thinking of composition and thinking of the history of composition, but it's also a painting about love and intimacy. But here, moving from friendship, which is such a subject of his paintings, to family, and probably all the memories that come with that, but also the way his art and his life breaks away from those roots.
I mean, there are so many artists now who say they were influenced by Hockney. I mean, how would you describe his legacy as you approach putting together what will now be a retrospective?
I mean, what could his influence be? I mean, I think he's one of these artists you encounter as someone who kind of loves art from an early stage, is really visual. He's one of those artists you encounter really early on. That was certainly the case for me. So I think his work, his example would have opened the door to many, many artists. And I think one thing he represents for artists is to go your own road and but also not to be locked into a style that maybe the art world wants you to repeat, or the broader world wants you to repeat, but to give yourself permission to keep reinventing yourself. So I think in that sense, he's a great model to all artists and maybe all creative people.
Alex, thank you so much for coming in. Thank you.
Pleasure.